is up, Star Wars fans? Welcome to the Star Wars Stuff. It's going to be my review for Solo, a Star Wars story. And I'm going to do the first half without spoilers, and the second half I will get into spoilers. So I will warn you when that is coming. But, getting into it. I saw the movie Thursday night, so the night it came out here in America. I saw it opening night, and I have to say I had a lot of fun watching this movie. I won't call this like an amazing film or something that is like earth-shatteringly good, but it is a fun movie to watch. You'd have to be dead inside to watch this movie and not have some fun. Does it have its issues? Yes. Could it have been better? Probably. But overall, I think that a couple things really nailed it. So for one, there was a lot of concern about Alden Ehrenreich and his portrayal of Han Solo in this movie. Before anyone even saw anything, people wrote this guy off and said he's going to be a failure, he's going to ruin everything because of certain leaks that we had. And of course, he had massive shoes to fill that can never really be filled. Harrison Ford. I mean, it's not going to happen. You won't find someone that can do that. Harrison Ford is Han Solo. But I have to say I was pleasantly surprised, and I actually kind of had anticipated that he wouldn't do a bad job. Just based off the clips I saw, he seemed to be a very charismatic, fun actor, and I thought he did a pretty damn good job. So no problems there, and at times, I mean, he definitely did his homework and tried hard, because at times, some of the smirks and kind of facial expressions and kind of mannerisms, they were so Han Solo-esque. And I think it's important to remember, he's not trying to, nor should he try to mimic the Han Solo we saw in episode 4, 5, and 6. It wouldn't make sense. This is the story of how he becomes that guy. So he's different. He's literally a different person in this movie, but you can see the echo of where it's going, which is the way it needs to be done. I mean, look back in your own life. Were you the same person you were, 10 years ago to now? No, you were a completely different person, probably. You were learning. You didn't have all the experience under your belt. So that's what we see in this movie with this Han Solo. How many times, the best example of this is like when you don't see someone for like 10 years, and then when you hang out with them, like, hey, damn, you've really changed. You've changed a lot since I last saw you. Like, that's just how life works. So you're a different person. So I don't think he did a bad job at all. Now, as far as Lando, Donald Glover really nailed it. His accent, times, man, you hear him speaking and he sounds just like him. And he actually doesn't look too much like Lando, but the sound and the manner, he just captured the coolness factor completely. We'll get into some of the issues and ideas they had with that character that are just kind of weird later, but in the spoiler part. But for now, I thought he did a pretty damn good job. Now, the other bonus characters, obviously Chewie was great. So Chewie, let's talk about Chewie, Han, and Lando, returning characters. Chewie, that you see some physicality with Chewie that you just never really got to see in episode 4, 5, and 6, and it's really awesome to see what a Wookiee can really do. Getting into the actions, and as far as like all the new characters, Dryden Voss, Beckett, all those kind of people, they're fine. Kira, they're okay. They're cool characters. They all did a good job. But nothing's gonna. I don't think many people will have a new Star Wars favorite character in Star Wars coming out of this film. They're just kind of okay characters. They don't have a lot of room to grow, right? Because you're surrounded by Chewie, Han, and Lando. So how can you expect these other characters to become fan favorites? They just don't have the space to grow, in my opinion, in this movie. So, but they do their job. As far as the action sequences, these are some of the most creative and fun to watch action sequences you will see, and that is kind of a hallmark of Star Wars films. They always find a way to do something new and inventive that is fun, whether it's a little snowspeeder tow cabling an Imperial Walker, or whether that's Wookiees swing on vines to drop bombs on droid tanks. They always find some new way to keep it interesting and fun and different. And even like villain weapons. They always find a way to, whether it's a crossguard lightsaber or a double-bladed lightsaber, they find a way to make it interesting. I'm sure if you saw the trailers, you saw the weapon Dryden Voss uses. So they always find a way to make the action sequences fresh, new, and different. So they were a lot of fun to watch, and it has to be. This is a heist film, so a lot of the heist, if the heist isn't fun to watch, then you're not going to have fun watching this movie. And they did a good job with that. So, and as far as the art direction is concerned, man, this film, the artists, there were some really talented artists behind this film, because the visuals, man, the costume design and the locations, everything, it was on point, man. The aliens, loved it, incorporating enough of the old aliens with enough of the new aliens. Super nice blend that they managed to achieve with this film. And the overall tone that is set by the locations and everything, and the vehicles and the costumes, whether it's the mud troopers or the you name it, it's all really fun to watch. The art direction of this film, the world building was phenomenal, and there were quite a bit of nods to stuff that you have seen in the original trilogy and any other actually really obscure Star Wars content. There were a lot of nods to and winks and references to that kind of stuff. So some people are going to like that, some people aren't going to like that. Overall, this was a fun movie to watch. My biggest thing is that it just didn't really surprise me. It didn't really throw me for a loop at any point. It was all pretty predictable, and it was a little bit. I did get a little bit bored in the middle, um, but there is one ginormous surprise that did surprise me, but it really doesn't have too much to do with the plot. So it's just kind of like more of an Easter egg, and we'll get into that. So overall, if you are a Star Wars fan, I do think you will have fun watching this movie. Now we're going to get into spoilers, though. Now, man, okay, the biggest spoiler of them all. Okay, effing Darth Maul is in this movie. Yeah, for 1 minute, he is in this movie at the end. And that is just utter fan service. And if you don't know, like, if you've only seen the movies, you haven't seen the Clone Wars cartoon and Rebels cartoon, you won't know, but Darth Maul did survive the Phantom Menace, and he is still at large up until right before A New Hope. Um, so there is that. But so he's in this movie, and just for a minute, it turns out he's the crime lord that's in charge of the whole gang that Han and friends were doing the heist for, and they're bad eggs, obviously. Getting into, okay, so just get that out of the way, the Darth Maul thing. That is just sick to see. I didn't like one thing about his scene. It's like he's portrayed by the same guy that played him in the Phantom Menace, and he has aged a little bit, so that's good. I mean, and he's voiced by Sam Whitaker, the guy that voices him in Rebels and the Clone Wars. But there's this thing when you first see him in that scene, he waits for a little while, and then for no reason he like turns on, he like force pulls his lightsaber to himself and turns it on and starts like showing it off, like for no apparent reason. It felt a little bit forced. They probably could have found a smoother way to do that instead of, look at me, I have lightsaber of Darth Maul's. Like, it was just a little, it could have been a little smoother done, in my opinion. For people that were able to put together such a smooth Lando, they kind of hit us over the head with the Darth Maul portrayal. But yeah, man, I mean, whatever. Then awesome that they did that, though. I'm a kind of person that is really liking that they're bringing a lot of these obscure parts of the Star Wars universe from the cartoon series, because I love the Clone Wars. They're more power to them. If they want to bring stuff from that into this. And another thing was, we find out what happened to Aura Singh. So like another random character that you see for a passing second in the Phantom Menace, but she's expanded on in the Clone Wars. She is apparently, she's not in this movie, but they talk about her and they say that apparently Tobias Beckett killed her. It's just a random thing to just throw in there, but it's fun. It's different. They reference Bosk in the movie, and they go to a lot of locations that we know about. So like Kessel, they have to obviously go to Kessel because Han Solo says it in the original, in A New Hope, so they can't resist. They have to show us Kessel. We see the Maw, which is really cool. That's in the lore, I think, where they actually built the Death Star. I don't know if that's canon anymore or not, but it's basically a black hole cluster. That was cool to finally see that. So we see Kessel, we see Corellia, so we see a lot of stuff that, we see the Pike Syndicate, a lot of stuff that diehard Star Wars fans will know about, but will actually be fresh to people that only watch the movies and have only heard it referenced. Did the Easter eggs weigh down the movie? I know a lot of people will say like maybe the Easter eggs and references weighed down the film, but at times, yes, maybe they do. I actually felt like when watching Rogue One, there was a little bit too much winking. I think that in this movie too, like some of them, like I don't think we needed so many Easter eggs and winks. I think the Easter eggs are fine. It's more so the winks. Like, I mean, obviously they're going to show us how Han Solo gets his blaster, and they went a step further. They actually show us how Han Solo got his name, the last name Solo. And I think overall, I mean, at times I was like, okay, we get it. Like, other movies have happened. Now tell me something new. That's how I was getting in my chair a little bit. But it's all kind of very fan servicey, and so you can tell that they're just doing it because they want me as a fan to feel validated that I know what they're talking about. But it's fine. I mean, it's cool. It's whatever. Overall, I had fun watching the film, and I would probably see it again. Is it my favorite Star Wars movie of all time? Hell no. Is it anywhere close to the original trilogy? Hell no. Will we ever get a Star Wars movie that can come close to the original trilogy? Hell no. It's just not going to happen. Um, the most we can hope for really is just to have fun watching these movies, and that's kind of I kind of had to I'm the kind of maybe I'm too hopeful because going into The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rogue One, I was always thinking like, okay, I'm seeing a Star Wars movie. It's going to be at the same caliber of the original trilogy if they do it right. That is just not realistic. We can't hope for that. It's not going to happen. Let me tell you right now. But will you see movies that are fun and that you will enjoy if they do them right and will, hopefully add something new to the Star Wars universe? Yes, that is entirely possible, and hopefully they can achieve that. Um, they managed to piss a lot of people off with The Last Jedi, and I think that this is probably a big step in the right direction, to be honest. Couple things I will say now, big nitpicks. I did not like the droid L3, and a lot of people are saying the same thing. I thought that, and I don't mind her. She's fine. It was just a little weird, or very weird rather. They decided to make it so that Lando and her actually have a sexual relationship. And I was thinking, man, if I had brought my kids to see this and there was weird stuff like that, like I get it, this is Star Wars, it's some crazy, weird universe where weird stuff happens. But there's a fine line, man, between making it so strange and so out there that it's just unrelatable and kind of gross to watch and just weird. So, and I feel like, like the prequels, it was kind of like where every other character you met was like this like monk that wouldn't even like wasn't even attracted to the other sex. Versus this movie, you have they're literally hitting anything that moves. I mean, it's a freaking robot. It's just a little bit weird, man. I don't know. I wish they would have just made it more like an Anakin R2D2 relationship between Lando and L3. They didn't have to get all weird with it like that. That kind of ruins the character of Lando in a way because like when we see Lando in Empire Strikes Back, he is a stud, man. He's hitting on Leia. He's a cool dude. He's so suave, so smooth. And then we find out that he was actually like freaking banging a robot. I mean, it just doesn't add up. And that is the one thing they do have to be extremely careful for going forward making these movies. They have to stay true to what's already been established with these characters. They can't just say, okay, now Lando is a robot perv. It doesn't. It's weird, man. That's not the Lando any of us saw in the original trilogy. So that is a huge issue I have. I wish they would have just taken that out and made them have a relationship more similar to like an R2D2 and Anakin. Like they're friends, they like each other, but they're not freaking banging. That's just odd. But anyways, spent a lot of time on that. That did bug me. Um, hmm. Anything else I want to say? I mean, I've if you don't know, I have a video where I literally say the entire plot of the film. So if you want more of that, you can see that. I put pictures and clips in for each plot point too, and I just kind of narrate the entire plot of the solo movie. I'll link that in the description, put it in the comments if you want. Um, Overall, again, this is a very fun movie to watch. If you are a Star Wars fan, you'll have a hard time not laughing and giggling at times. I do feel the comedy doesn't fall flat as it didn't. Like in Last Jedi, when I was watching Last Jedi in the theater, every time they threw a joke, like no one knew whether or not to laugh. It was just kind of awkward. A lot of comedy misfires and not the correct time given the tone that was happening. But in this movie, it felt right. Like it wasn't like slapstick. It was just it was funny enough that I could get a chuckle at times, and some points were really just it's kind of an endearing funny, which was what we got from the original trilogy. Like at times, like it wasn't like laugh your ass off, but it was like at times you're like, oh, I know these characters, I know what they're about, so I'm gonna laugh at this joke that just got dropped because that's so right for that character to say something like that. Oh man, I mean, overall, again, it's a really fun movie. I'm struggling to think of anything else to talk about. I do probably need to collect my thoughts a little bit more on this, but that's my initial. After one day of processing, this is my review for Solo: A Star Wars Story. I want to come back and do this after I've seen it another time, so I can kind of get um, more of my opinions. But for the most part, if you're someone that's on the fence about seeing this movie, I do recommend you see it. It is very fun to watch. Just check your expectation at the door. Don't go in expecting something on the level of the original trilogy. I would say I think that this is probably better than like the Phantom Menace or like Attack of the Clones. Is it as good as Revenge of the Sith? I don't know, man. It's so preference and so up in the air. It's very different. Um, and they do leave this one open to being having a sequel. So if you like this movie, you're in luck because it seems like they're setting it up for a sequel. But that is it for this video, guys. Be sure to rate, like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for tons and tons of Star Wars content. Have an awesome day.